And it's about 20 minutes later on YouTube. So if you're going to be having that on in the background, you might want to just turn it down because for some reason there's a 20-second delay.
Turn what down?
And it's about 20. YouTube. Anyway, we are live on YouTube. So I just want to welcome everybody as I am here letting Beth know that there's a few seconds of gap in between what we say and when you guys see it. So it's a little bit crazy. But anyway, I just want to say welcome to our weekly Thursday at 6 p.m. Hour of live whatever with Taringa Ranch. Recently, we have started doing interviews and I am having so much fun. I can't even tell you. Last week, we met Greg Pauly from the Natural History Museum. This week, we are talking to Beth Pratt from the National Wildlife Federation about her awesome book, When Mountain Lions Are Neighbors. So before I get started, and I know because she is very informal like I am going to share and toot her horn for her just a little bit because she is so awesome and has done so many things. You may only know her as the face of LA Cougars. You're the face of LA Cougars, Beth. How do you like that?
I'm the Cougar lady.
But she really did a lot of things before she got there. And so I stole this from online and it's a little bit old, but she did all this stuff and is still doing a lot of this stuff. She worked in environmental leadership roles for over 25 years, even though she's only 30. It's amazing how she did that. And in two of the country's largest national parks, Yosemite and Yellowstone. And I say them like that because I love these parks so much. As regional executive director of the California Regional Center of the National Wildlife Federation, I have the best job in the world, she says. While advocating for the state's remarkable animals, I get to travel around California and spend time with condors, mountain lions, porpoises, pika, and foxes, and work with some amazing people who help wildlife thrive. Before joining the Federation in 2011, she worked on sustainability and climate change programs for Xanterra Parks and Resorts in Yellowstone as its Director of Environmental Affairs. Prior to her role in Yellowstone, for 9 years, Beth served as the Vice President and CFO for the nonprofit Yosemite Association, which is now the Yosemite Conservancy in Yosemite National Park. She graduated from the University of Massachusetts at Boston with bachelor's degrees in management and biological anthropology and a minor in marketing. She also obtained an MBA from Regis University in Denver and earned the U.S. Green Building Council's LEED AP credential. Again, all before she turned 30. She's so amazing.
Amazing how that worked, yeah.
And she serves on the board of the nonprofits Outdoor Afro and Save the Frogs. She's trained with Vice President Al Gore as a member of his Climate Reality Project Leadership Corps. Her conservation work has been featured by The New Yorker, The Wall Street Journal, CNN, BBC World Service, CBS This Morning, The LA Times, The Washington Post, NPR, and even Taringa Ranch, right?
That's right. No, you should name that first. Mm-hmm.
She's the author of The Idea of Forever, the official junior ranger handbook for Yosemite, When Mountain Lions Are Neighbors, and she has a new book out called I Love Wildlife, and we're going to chat about that later too. I just couldn't wait. And one of my favorite things that I recently just discovered, and I put it on the event invite, so if you want to go back and check that out on the Facebook page, she did this awesome TED Talk about a bachelor cougar in LA. So
that was fun.
With that, I am just going to say thank you so much for joining us tonight, Beth. How are you? Tell me about your week.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thanks for that kind introduction. I mean, for me, all that's been done in the service of trying to help wildlife, right? I mean, I think, I am actually kind of an introvert, believe it or not. Nobody believes that about me, but I am. And if reading at home with my dogs serve the best interests of wildlife, that's all I do. But, unfortunately, it requires doing things like TED Talks and talking to the press. And so, when I hear that, it's not so much, wow, I feel good about me, but it's like, that's helped further the causes for wildlife and the environment. And so that's what's been exciting about being a part of all those things you just named off. But how am I doing? I think like everybody these days, it's complicated answer, right? And I think obviously one of the environmental issues that the National Wildlife Federation as a whole works on, for the Federation, we're one of the oldest and largest groups in the country, about 6 million supporters nationwide. I only have to oversee California though. There's about 6 of me across the country. And I feel lucky because, I'm the only regional executive director with one state, but I'm still the biggest region, but it's California. And, we have the most progressive environmental and wildlife protections in the country. So I feel really lucky in that. But of course, we are dealing with issues here. Obviously, we're dealing with COVID like the rest of the country, but you add on this layer of fire. And I was joking with somebody today. I had a nightmare last night that included I was wearing a mask and running from fire, right? So you have like this, sort of ground zero for end of the world stuff here. And I'm at ground zero for fire. So in response to your question, it's been interesting. The last 3 years in a row, I've had to evacuate. Hopefully not this year. The Creek Fire, which is actually not that far from me, but I'm at least in no danger from the fire itself, is such a scientific abnormality. I mean, if you can step outside how frightening it is and look at it from a standpoint of science, it's doing things we've never seen before, as well as pumping in more smoke in a short period of time. And that's what is affecting us here. The park, Yosemite, I live right on the southwestern border, just closed today because the air pollution was so bad. I have friends on the east side of the Sierra who are living in levels that have never been seen before in Bishop or Mammoth, places like that. We're in about not the off the charts unhealthy, but still pretty high unhealthy here. And I have not seen the sun for the most part, or been able to go outside for more than 5 minutes for about 9 days. So here we are at the end of the world. But I think it's this is on us. Like it's on us. And I've just outlined and whined about my inconveniences, but and of course, a lot of us are suffering more significantly, either loss of life, loss of home. But then you think of the wildlife who literally are, these are not wildfires. These are human-caused firestorms. Wildlife in California have adapted to wildfire, but not to these. And, you're talking about local extinctions. You're talking about ecosystems that will not come back the way they were. And when I hear that nature is resilient and, oh, look, the plants are coming back in 2 months, that is no comfort to the wildlife who just have nowhere to go and have fled their homes. So, humans at least have some options. Wildlife does not. And what we're looking at least here in the Sierra, from climate change and fires and drought and 100 million trees dead, is a whole scale ecosystem shift that is going to impact wildlife. So that's maybe my only bad news for the night. Let's focus on some of the positive stories, which is what the books are about. But listen, this is serious. I mean, if it's serious for people as far as what we're going through, it's serious for wildlife, and we got to change, or I don't think either one of us are going to have a future, right? Yeah.
No, it's crazy. I mean, yeah, we haven't here in LA. We get fires every year also in the area, but we've never had smoke like this either.
Yeah,
it's really, really crazy. And, it feels like it's getting worse every year.
And yeah, I mean, I'm actually, people guess I'm actually not 30, but I'm more in my 50s. And I have to say, it's also frightening to be living every disaster movie and horror book of my youth. Like, Stephen King got it right. And then, you get into firestorms. And I mean, these apocalyptic visions are like here. It's no longer like it might happen. Like, we're all living it, right? So that's a little disconcerting, I think, for me. I'm just waiting for the zombies to show up next,
I know, right? Yeah, it's yeah. I just I don't even say anymore. I don't even say, oh, what else could happen, because you just don't dare say that because you just don't know. So So, all right, let's get to some of the questions I have. So first of all, I wanted to tell you the things that I really loved about the book.
Oh,
One of the things that I thought was so cool was the highlights of the local heroes, right? So like you're telling a story, but you know, you're also telling it from the point of view of people all over. And, you know, for example, here you've got Meatball, the Glendale bear, and you've got Cougar Magic. These are two of my favorite wildlife stories that are local, you know, and so I just feel like you made so many connections, real life connections. And I feel like so many people probably know someone that you mentioned in this book. And so I really appreciated that. I appreciated that it's such a great story. Like, it's nonfiction, but you're such a storyteller. And I was just immediately drawn into it. And I forgot that I was reading a book. I appreciated that you included local Native American information in certain places. I think that goes so hand in hand with wildlife and native plants. And I think a lot of times we forget about that. So I was really excited that you remembered that. And I also appreciated the history behind some of the situations that we have now. Like, I didn't even know them. I'm not from California. So learning the story about the bears, for example, was really, really interesting. Yeah, so I really got a lot out of the book. I really liked it a lot. It was way fun to read. So that was cool.
well, if if I had written it, I hadn't met you when I was writing it, but you definitely would have been one of those heroes in there. For obviously we work a lot together now. We did the Wildlife to Watts last year, and hoping to do something similar this year. But yeah, it was a really fun book to research and write, but it definitely did not start out as the book it is. And Malcolm Margolin, the founder of Heyday, and I had worked together for 20 years in Yosemite. And when I got this job, actually we had a big strategic planning session, when I first started the California work, with a lot of people and just amazing folks who really helped me shape what we were going to do here. And one of the things they identified actually as a gap, NWF is a national group, and we come in and we don't duplicate work or try, it's like, how can we use our national presence to further the work and help local groups and help regional groups? And as you say, it's very purposeful. This mentions all the work going on. It's not just NWF, right? But one of the things they identified during that strategic session in 2011 is there really wasn't an updated book on California wildlife, and that would be a really good way to re-engage California population, was to do a book. The book really started out as more your traditional, if not hard science, more like a survey of California wildlife. And then P22 came on the scene, and what it started opening my eyes to was this whole people wildlife relationship, and how California was doing that in a way nobody else has. And I think there's a tendency for all of us. I mean, I grew up in and this is like a riff on my TED talk, the very traditional view of conservation, where you decouple people and wildlife and you can only see them separate, that wildlife has its space here and people have their space here. You don't talk about that interface. In fact, it'd be bad to, right? It'd be bad to anthropomorphize. It's bad to have a person in a picture with wildlife, to say nothing of, wildlife showing up in your yard. And that was a big transformation for me as well, to get over that, which had been so indoctrinated in me, as most of my conservation career. So, the P22 story, not only, I always joke, changed my life, because Jeff Sikich, who's a hero of mine, one of the lead scientists, who's just doing groundbreaking work in the Los Angeles area. They're the ones, the National Park Service identified we need to build a crossing. But when he was telling me about the research they were doing in these urban interfaces with big cats, it just like changed my thinking so much about what was possible. So the book then turned into, and then like, what is it like, it's those like trick photos. Once you open your eyes, like, it was like, oh my God, look at all these stories around the state of how, people and wildlife are sort of in this new sort of paradigm where, yeah, it's not perfect conservation space yet. I don't think P22 is in Griffith Park longing to live in a Yosemite, right? I mean, he's make, he's, there's like, a lot of us long to live somewhere else, yet we're pretty happy, where we are. So, it's I think animals, the book really came down to animals are adapting, and here are some people who are adapting too, and we need to do more of this across not just California, but the country if we're going to survive. And the last thing I'll say is I also wanted to focus on the good news. I mean, a lot of, being an environmentalist or conservation is fighting people and, the bad guys, and you win far fewer than you lose. So it was a really good thing to celebrate people who are making a difference, as you said, like, Johanna Turner, like Rue Mapp, like, I mean, I could go down the list, Leela Higgins. I mean, again, I could cite, but it's also good just to tell some good news. And that's, really what the book was about. So I'm glad you liked it. And it's to me, it's always rewarding to see people reading it or referencing it, because it was written with that in mind. This is not a book I get any royalties from. It was written so that all proceeds would go back to the cause. And it was written to inspire people to act. So, and that I think it's working. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's this book could have been written like exactly for Taringa Ranch when mountain lions are neighbors. We started off as a reptile rescue. That's why we have reptiles and why people associate us with that. But about 9 years ago, and this story, a mountain lion, someone in my neighborhood saw a mountain lion in their backyard in the middle of the day, an actual mountain lion, not a bobcat this time. They picked up the phone, they called 911 because they didn't know what to do, because they had a mountain lion as a neighbor, but they didn't know what to do. And so Fish and Wildlife wound up killing it. They tried to scare it out of the yard. All it had to do was jump over a fence, and it wouldn't have been in someone else's yard. It would have been in the Tahunga Wash. And that was like an eye-opening moment for me. I had so many questions as a result of that. And this was, I want to say it was like 8-9 years ago. And it was a result, the good news is it was a result of that incident that they passed AB 132.
Yeah, 132, there was a few of those that really inspired, hey, we can't just be automatically killing a cat just because it's in a human space, right? You're right. Yep, that in the, it was some kittens in Half Moon Bay as well that were automatically killed. Yeah. So
yeah, and it woke me up. I mean, I had been volunteering at a local exotic sanctuary. I had, been rescuing and I just thought, wait a minute, like, people don't understand. They see a coyote, they don't know what to do. They see a mountain lion, they don't know what to do. They see a snake, they don't know what to do. Like, we don't learn it, it's not in the California state curriculum. So, it's really important, I think, that stories like yours are coming out, and this helps people understand, and especially P22 in Griffith Park. I love it when I get to see the videos that Miguel will show of the mountain lion going one way at one time, and then like a few minutes later, a human running by the other way, right on the exact same spot on the trail. Like, people need to see that. If they see that, then when they see a mountain lion, if they ever get that opportunity, maybe it won't be their response to call 911,
And I think, that's P22's legacy. And I think also the legacy of storytelling. You talk about, I mean, I'm a scientist. Listen, I have a science. I'm not a practicing scientist. I do some research, but it's not my job. Like Jeff Reset, who's like writing papers. Although I got named in my first PICA paper, I was very excited about that. But we need science to save us. We do. I mean, COVID's a great example. If you don't put on that friggin' mask, right? I mean, come on, science is pretty clear on what helps. But same with wildlife. Like, we need the science. We wouldn't know we needed a crossing if it wasn't for Jeff and Seth's science. But on the other hand, science doesn't fund a wildlife crossing. Science doesn't automatically get a species on the endangered species list. You also need the public to care, and that, as we know, and especially with our political, facts don't always matter, and that's where the storytelling comes in. And P22 is a great example in that they'd been talking about doing something in this area. They didn't know what it was going to be, crossing a tunnel or fencing, who knows, like for probably 20 years. But, they were talking about it in very dry, ecosystem resiliency and biodiversity, all true. It's not that, but the general public just snores, right? But here you have this lonely bachelor mountain lion that can't get a date and is probably going to die a bachelor, cut off from his kind. And it becomes real in a way to people that no scientific book is ever going to convey. So, and so I think that's a real lesson that we as scientists or conservationists or people that work for change really need to that the facts are important, but the story, and for me, we're trying to build this crossing, and P22 obviously has just changed the game, and we're going to get it built as a result. But what he's also done is, you're saying, like, it's the people are learning about him. Like P22's page, we do Who's Hotter, Brad Pitt or P22, but people also learn an awful lot of real mountain lion education from that page. So that you're right, once most people, not everybody, some that just want to shoot mountain lions, right? And I'm not going to change, but for those who just may be scared or uncertain, you start learning about mountain lions or other wildlife, the scariness goes away. I mean, if you are someone who knows nothing about mountain lion behavior, Dante, you want to be on TV? And you see a 130 pound cat snarling at you, you probably you are probably going to assume, and I can see why, that you're in danger. Whereas those of us who know mountain lion behavior know, if you are looking at a cat who's snarling at you, that cat's probably not in hunt mode. Mountain lions are stealth predators. That cat's probably more like, get away from me, I don't want to be there. So it is about just connecting people and familiarizing them so that they know more about whatever wildlife, or same thing like rattlesnakes or black widows. People just automatically kill those animals when you don't need to. My God, I've picked up a black widow. They don't, they are terrified. They don't want to bite you. Same thing with rattlesnakes. So I think that the more we familiarize ourselves, and that starts through storytelling. That doesn't start by me saying, hey, you're bad for killing a rattlesnake. It starts with, getting people really interested. Just on a total tangent, I just posted on my Facebook page the last 2 days, I had Arizona mantid mating orgy on now I didn't know that this is actually uncommon to witness, and for me it was really fun because actually some scientists got involved and wanted me to document how many males were headless on the female, and but so I was posting it on my Facebook page, and it was the comments were hilarious from people, right? But what was even better to me, people who I know, who I'm either friends with or who follow me, who I know really aren't like big wildlife people, or they would like put in the comments, oh, I didn't know they did that. I just researched it and looked it up. Oh my God, that's fascinating. So, now they know more about mantids. So, it begins with sort of something fun or something compelling about the animal, but that then translates into action. And we have both the crossing being built, but what we have that the world has really taken notice of in LA is people being very comfortable with living with a dangerous predator. And P22, I can't say he'll never attack anybody. He likely won't, and the risk is so low. But LA's become very pro-native wildlife, and I think that to me is actually the more exciting development from him than that we're gonna fund the crossing. It's something pretty special to watch.
Yeah, it really is. It's incredible. Earlier I was talking about, we are spending a lot of time talking about mountain lions, but you actually have a chapter in the book about bears. Yes. And I don't think most people know a lot about bears. I know that even here in my horse community, if there is a random bear, everybody freaks out, always coming for my horses, I know about bears, but people don't want to listen to me. I'd love it if you would tell us one of your bear stories.
I will, and you know what, if you can do that share screen thing.
Yeah, let me do that.
I got a great video in my yard I can share if I can find it. Let's see. Let me just go to Facebook. I bet I can just show it from there. I just showed this. Oh, I know where I showed it. Hold on. There we go. All right, see if I can. Yeah, it's gonna let me do it. Let me just show this. This was actually my yard a couple weeks ago, and let's see. That's not what I wanted. There we go. Can you see a bear? I can't see the screen.
Oh wow! Yes.
Okay, so here.
Yes, it's a young bear.
Yeah, he's probably like a beard older.
He's thin also.
And this bear posed for the camera, like just posed. You know, like usually they're walking by, but he's, you know, he or she is just like, hey, what's going on here? But this was just such a magical, you know, sight to see. And I'm proud, like my yard in the Sierra, I have just about, the only thing I don't have, it's kind of a standing joke between me and one of the Yosemite biologists, is I don't have turtles. But I'm very proud on my 6 acres, even though I have 5 dogs and well, 1 cat now, and my dogs do not run loose and my cats are indoor. Like I have almost everything in the Sierra you should have here, and bears are no exception. But yeah, one of the first projects I worked on when I became the vice president Yosemite Association was the Keep Bears Wild program with a really wonderful woman, Kate McCurdy. She was one of the people heading up the project at the time for the Park Service. And our job with the association was to provide the educational component, because they were having bears just being, you know, being put down, they were having almost, you know, $750,000 in property damage from bears breaking in their cars. And, you know, the chapter really outlines what worked was once they shifted it from, it's not a bear problem, it's a human problem. And I'll tell you, it also worked with storytelling. As you know, the chapter outlines that the late Steve Thompson, again, another good friend of mine, he unfortunately is no longer with us. He was so frustrated. He had no money to fix the problem. The only solution they had was to put down bears, because they had, you know, no other recourse. They couldn't, you know, the safety of people were at risk, and they were really making hard decisions, could not get any support for more funding to do better or to do different things. And he did something really, you know, he could have lost his job, but he's like, I don't want to kill any more bears. That's not what I get into this for. He called the Washington Post. This was what, 1996, 97? When he had to put down a bear and her 2 cubs, and brought him out, and they did a lead story. And gee, look what happened. They have next year got about $500,000 in funding to do the outreach and education to get people to behave differently, right? And it worked. You know, you have to keep it up. I mean, you know, you still have to keep up the education and you know, constantly policing people. And the one of the problems is the bears that live in Yosemite don't always stay in Yosemite, and you know, the communities outside of the park are not as compliant about food storage. But it worked in the park, and so it was marvelous to watch that too. And a lot of the reason it worked is because you told the story about, you know, and most people don't want a bear to die. So that worked. But they're just amazing creatures. And, you know, in Yosemite, we have, I mean, in California, we, of course, no longer have grizzly bears. And I would love to see them come back. We have wolves now. The condors making a comeback. We just need the grizzlies back. But you know, it's sort of opened an interesting hole for the black bear to fill. Most people aren't aware that, you know, the black bears down in your area are not from the, you know, that was sort of more grizzly habitat, right? That the grizzlies going away, because they'd compete, and often, you know, grizzlies would often take out a black bear, has sort of brought the black bears down from the forests. And now, you know, we have black bears all around California that most of us are accustomed to coexisting with, but that was not always, you know, always the case. But I love them. Black bears they are smarter than we are. They are just beautiful creatures that, again, my friend Kate McCurdy, I asked her once what she liked about bears, and she said because they're at the top of the food chain, they have time just to be. And you know, you'll see one contemplating a sunset, or you know, rolling around in the mud leisurely because they know nothing's going to eat them, right? So they have, much like we do, because us as humans have evolved to a place where we're not constantly looking for the, you know, the predator after us or starving all the time. I think bears, you know, have that sort of luxury of free time and contemplative thought. You know, talk about over anthropomorphizing. So yeah, I mean, when I worked in Yellowstone, lucky enough to their work with grizzly bears. Now they're like, you know, like this, I've had black bears in my yard I've been up here about 22 years now. You know, you just shoo them off with your hand. Get out, you know, just if they're in your, you know, Now, when I was in Yellowstone, grizzly bears, you know, you're in the middle of the food chain. You're not messing around there. They are just massive creatures, and you know, they're you know, they could swipe your head off with their but it was really wonderful. I think my record there was seeing 9 in one day. You know, it was just, Yellowstone's got a wildlife in plenty and abundance, you know, whereas here we're lucky to see a deer or a bear. There it's like, oh, there's 1,000 elk right there. You know, it's quite a different experience. That is how the world used to be, right? It used to be that way every year. So
Yeah, can you imagine? Yeah, I really, that story about the bear is amazing. And in the book, there is an account by the journalist who was there while the person had to put the bears down, and it just touches your heart. So I think
people want to know where the P-22, you know, we did this P-22 plushie that's proven very successful, right? You know, you get the little air tag and the collar, and there's an educational hang tag. Well, that came from, where is it? There. This is from 19, God, I want to say 99. I can't remember. This is the first, they'd sell them now. They look a little different. This is one of the educational things we developed, which was a Yosemite bear with an educational hang tag and the little tag. And the tag told you why, you know, doing things for bears in the park was important. So anyway, it was a really wonderful project to collaborate with the Park Service and the concessionaire at the time on, especially since it was a success. And I think, you know, they're down to, you know, usually less than 10 grand in property damage. Sometimes there's little blips. But more importantly, the testing shows, in fact, there was a headline a few years ago, the bears are eating like it's 1917, right? So, you know, they're not seeing the quantities of human food that they were seeing before. Because that's one of the things about bears and some other wildlife. Like mountain lions, you don't have this problem with. Mountain lions are obligate carnivores, as you know, Dana, right? They're never going to eat our trash. They're never going to eat Wonder Bread, right? They're not a deer or a raccoon, you know, but and raccoons, they eat what you know, they're not stupid. You know, if they can switch to, you know, like meatball, a freezer full of meatballs, that's a hell of a lot easier to get calories from than, you know, eating bugs, right? Or flowers.
Or hunting something. And
yeah, or exactly, hunting something. You know, hunting is not easy. Even mountain lions, their success rate is not, you know, all that high. So, you know, these are animals that do well on our food. I mean, I let me not say well, but can, you know, actually can survive on our food, even if it's not the healthiest for them, and get calories. So, you know, bears are generalists. That's why they'll switch to whatever they have. You know, in the wild, if they don't have access to human food, if the, you know, white bark pine nut is not available, they'll switch to something else. And it's no different when you put a human food in front of them. They're not stupid. Sure, this is easy. I'll take a steak that somebody left out. But that's also what, you know, it's helped them survive over millennia. But it's, you know, when that hits the human interface, it's often means the bear's doom, because they become a bear that then has to be put down or removed because of the dangers. So yeah, it's just, you know, and that's a success story. I think like meatballs are great. Another, you know, so Yosemite stepped up, the city of Glendale, you know, they admitted they caused the problem and then pledged to do better, and even had that float dedicated to wildlife coexistence, to pledge to be better neighbors to wildlife. So, you know, there's great success stories like that, that at least keep me hopeful.
So every now and then we get to hear a little something about a pika.
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering if you wanted to talk about that at all.
Sure, you know, and I got some here, for those who, I just did you know, this, we weren't doing a PowerPoint tonight, but I just did this talk actually with the Sierra Nevada Alliance. So I have lots of Sierra wildlife photos assembled already. So yeah, I mean, can you get any cuter than this? I don't think so. So a pika is an animal I study, and I've been monitoring just, you know, on my own, although I contribute some data to Dr. Eric Beaver, who's one of the leading pika scientists. Of course, these guys are having kind of trouble with climate change, but you know, just getting to know these individuals, you know, spending time with them, seeing how they survive in some sites near the Toga Pass area, both in Yosemite and a little outside. And what I really do is just photo ID and make notes about how they're behaving. But my goodness, what a, you know, they're just off the charts cute. I mean, these are adorable animals. And, you know, when I talk a lot about wild wonder, because, you know, for me, we tend to think of humans at the top of this like pyramid of life, which to me is just, it's not true, right? I mean, we do some things well, although I don't know, at this point, we seem to be really good at causing our own self-destruction. You know, I don't see too many wildlife that acts in their, you know, their own, does not act in their own interest. We do, but wildlife do some remarkable things that we could not duplicate. I mean, these guys live at up to 13,000 feet. They don't hibernate. You know, they live under the snow, surviving on dried grass that they, you know, sort of dried over the summer as hay piles. Not only that, like they know how to stack the hay pile so that they get to the plant. Like, you know, some of these plants have toxins that if they eat at the wrong time could make them sick, but they know how to stack the hay pile so they get to that plant when it's no longer, you know, toxin that's got, you know, sort of dissipated. They fool and evade predators, you know, many times their size. As Alan Fish, who directs the Golden Gate Raptor Observatory, I was getting some raptor IDs of some that were flying over the pike. He's like, pike are too smart, you know, they're not going to get caught by these guys. Yeah, they're just amazing animals, and they're cute. There's no doubt spending a couple hours watching these guys just will make you happy, because they're not rodents. They are actually in the rabbit family, megamorphs, and they just look like this little fluffy potato that just sort of, you know, jumps around the rocks. So yeah, really fun animal to spend some time with. And you know, if you are in the Sierra, anywhere or the Rockies, anywhere from usually about, I don't know, 9 in the Sierra, 9 to 13,000 feet, you're more likely to hear them. So just, they have this little like beep, beep. I mean, it's really, yeah, you kind of have to get used to hearing it. You might mistake others, but just sit and be still, and they will come out. You just have to be, you know, sit and be still. But they're really cute. If you live in the only other place, it's a weird outlier population, the Columbia River Gorge in Oregon. There's actually a population that lives really low. They survive on moss and stuff. But yeah, really incredible animal that I just can't get enough of.
They're adorable. They're adorable, but they're not in your yard because you're at less.
No, yeah, I don't. I wish I lived high enough, but I wouldn't make it. Are you kidding? 12,000 feet. Even the Sierra, known for its mild winters, not, yeah, 12,000 feet is yeah, not a good place to live at.
Unless you're a pika.
Yeah. They in fact, they can die from overheating. So they really, wow. Yeah, they need the cold temperatures. And that just, you know, I don't like to focus on the bad news too much, but a few ways they are being impacted. One is with climate change. As we know, hey, the temperatures are just in some areas getting hotter, and they don't like that. So the original hypothesis was they kind of would move up the mountain range until they had nowhere up to go, and they'd go up to Jacob's ladder to heaven or whatever, right? We now know it's a little more complex than that. There's some microclimates where, you know, pike are doing okay, others are not. Some of them are shifting their foraging habits. But it's still generally true. The hotter it gets, not just because they don't like heat, but the vegetation does not become as good, you know, if the moisture count goes down. So you have that factor. You also have something that's impacting them, as we know, the snowpack, right? So you would think, well, does milder winters help them? Absolutely. Actually, it doesn't, because as we're getting less and less snowpack in the Sierra, they rely on that snowpack for insulation. So it's not as cold, right? So extreme cold is not going to do them any good during the winter either. So if there's less snowpack, they struggle as well, because then they don't have that protection. So just getting hit in a few ways because of climate change. So
Russell Frizzle is telling us that pika are at Mount Rainier also.
Yes, yeah, they're in the Cascades as well. Anyway, I should say just sort of Western region. There are also other species of pika in other areas like Asia. I forget the name of them, but one looks like a teddy bear with big ears. I forget the species name, but yes, thanks for pointing that out. It's not just the Rockies and the Sierra, but sort of that Western region. Definitely they are, but high elevations for the most part, except for the Columbia River Gorge, which is just,
There's always gonna, as soon as you make a rule about a certain kind of an animal, there will always be a group of them that proves you wrong.
Oh yeah, and there's this other pika I just found out about. It went extinct, but it's called the Sardinian pika.
Oh,
It was a
wow.
pika that lived in Corsica and the native Mediterranean islands, but it is no longer with us. I forget, came up recently somewhere. I was like, oh my God, I never heard of that one.
Interesting.
So yeah.
So, all right, so we have a question from Rebecca. What has P22 been up to lately?
Yeah, so let me see. I got a recent photo that Miguel.
I'm wearing my shirt, by the way. Got my P22.
Oh yeah, there you go. I'm wearing P56 today, but
right.
all my P22 shirts are dirty. But
oh, wait a minute. I have a great question. Why is he called P22? What is the meaning of that name, Beth?
You know the answer to that one, Dana.
I know, but I bet our viewers don't.
Okay, so yeah, the P. I got a recent photo of P22. I'm trying to call it up. P stands for puma, and mountain lions can be very confusing because let me show this picture. People will like this. Because they have I think it's the record of names in the English language, or some number of languages, just because they were one of the most widespread land mammals for a while. So cougar, Florida panther is a mountain lion, right? The East Coast tends to use panther. We tend to use cougar, a mountain lion here. Catamount. I used to know all 40. I've forgotten half of them. So P stands for puma. And then, so the Park Service naming system is P for puma. And then he was the 22nd cat that they tagged in the study. They're now up to almost 100, especially with the summer of kittens. So, but here's a picture of P22 I love. This is taken by this wonderful couple who P22 actually was walking through their backyard every night for like a week. And again, this is so California, if you were elsewhere, people would be calling like, oh my God, what do I do? And they were just like, oh my God, we're so excited. He's come to stay, right? It was like, they were sort of with it. And this was him literally just, hey, hi, how's it going? And then he'd just walk on, looking in their dining room. So that was pretty cool. And then I have a pretty, Miguel, Miguel, as we all know, is awesome. He took some, I think I can find it here. Yeah, there it is. He took some really awesome photos recently. This is probably now my all-time favorite photo of P22. This is pretty recent. He's just got the best expression. He's starting to look like a mature cougar. He, he's got a little gray there, you can see, but he looks healthy. One of the reasons P22 is so handsome is because he doesn't have to fight other mountain lions. He's all alone, right? And that takes a lot of energy. But it also, as we know, tomcats, or if you see a male mountain lion his age, usually they're going to be scarred up, right? He's not. So he's such a LA cat. He's, still very, well groomed and stuff. So, but yeah, no, he's doing okay. He's, still ruling Griffith Park. I think he's a remarkable cat. He's really figured out the urban interface. As I always like to say, animals, whether it be your dog, whether it be a spider, whether it be P22, have personalities, right? They don't all behave the same. And he's no exception. I think not every cat would have stayed in Griffith Park. You might have had a cat that would be more aggressive to people. Not every cat would have tried to get there, right? So he's just got this pretty remarkable adaptable personality that he's figured out how to survive there and stay away from people for the most part, and bring down the deer and stay out of sight. So he's just a pretty remarkable cat. But yeah, doing pretty good.
Well, he's so great. It seems like we should have a party or a festival for him, don't you think?
Wait, we do. Thank you for bringing that up. That is a plant. I actually asked everybody to bring that up if she could. So let me square my screen again.
Oh, I was going to bring it up anyway. I'm so excited. I look forward to this every year. It is so much fun. It's going to be so different this year.
It is. And so it's really, this is our 5th year, which is like, oh my God, it's our 5th P22 day. And, again, I challenge you to find another festival dedicated to a mountain lion and an official day declared by Mayor Garcetti and the city council, right? I mean, that, again, just gets back to LA's wonderful value system. And we had 8,000 people show up last year to celebrate a mountain lion and coexisting with wildlife in Griffith Park. Obviously this year we have to go virtual. But I'm really excited. We've been working on for months and months now, this virtual interface, and we weren't even sure it was going to be possible to deliver in the time frame, but we have these great, wonderful developers and wonderful events people who were all pulling this together. It's a virtual interface like you've never seen. I mean, there's gaming, and I'm going to show people something that nobody really has seen here.
Ooh. You're exclusive here.
Yes.
Taranga Ranch and Beth Pratt. You're
Yeah,
exclusive.
Get there. This is pretty cool. So this is one of the games. This is very rough, so it's not done. So I even hesitate to show it, but check this out. So, one of the things we like to talk about is the mountain lions are challenged moving in the urban landscape. So these wonderful developers who really were not environmentalists or knew nothing about P22 came up with these games to demonstrate how he could free himself. And one of them is the P22 jetpack, which I just find so wonderfully delightful, that P22 could fly free over, Griffith Park. So what we're having, it's like a virtual festival interface. You're going to come in, there'll be exhibits, there'll be the main stage. And I can't announce who it is, but I will hint that we have a pretty big band who looks like going to be playing on the main stage. So it's very exciting. But there'll be exhibits, and we know Taranga Ranch will be there, that you can browse at your leisure. You will accumulate, as the sign says, Puma points for both playing those games, for how many exhibits you visit. There's trivia, you can accumulate points, and then we will give prizes to the leaders. There's also virtual walks and talks. So, much like the regular festival, there'll be people, and we're hoping again, Taranga will give one where you can go into a Zoom room or you can watch, a live video of some of these. And again, we just got so much great stuff lined up, much like the actual festival, with this interface that is really, really quite cool. So we hope you all join us. The other thing I do want to say is, listen, this is no longer just an LA festival. You don't have to travel to show up. So we're calling it the International Urban Wildlife Festival this year. And indeed, we will have exhibits not just from LA and not just from California, but from all over the world. And then putting that out to all of you, now that you don't have to travel, please, if you are a researcher scientist, if you're a nonprofit, if you're an educational institution, if you are a artist or photographer, exhibit space, it's all free. It's free to attend and it's free to exhibit. And we are looking at maybe 50 to 100,000 people attending this virtually. So it should be, please, we'd love, the more exhibits we have, the more the experience is going to be special. So we really hope people will. So email me or just, go to the Cougar site or whatever, if you want to exhibit, and then just stay tuned. The festival registration will open up on the 1st, where you can at least register in the system. You won't be able to get into the festival. And then 11 a.m. on October 24th, we kick off. So that's when you'll be able to get into the platform. But it's not going to close. That's the other fun part, right? You won't be able to get into it till October 24th at 11. And you will miss some of the live events and some of the special things we're doing. But the thing that's going to be cool is you'll be able to browse the exhibits and the educational opportunities after the festival's over. And we have a whole kids activity area as well. So join us. It'll be a lot of fun. And Dana and Taranga Ranch will be there. So
Of course we will. Oh my God. Well, it sounds like you really found the silver lining, and it sounds like, you're able to actually do some things with the event that you can't do when everybody has to show up and schlep their stuff to Griffith Park, right? So
yeah, we're looking forward to next year where we can do both. Indeed, I will say P22, the first year actually started out with more of this idea. We were going to do a lot more virtually, but we didn't have the time or the money. So what's good is next year we'll have both. I mean, I am still doing the hike. So
I was going to ask you about that.
yeah, I mean, you can do that safely, obviously alone. So I still am going to do the hike, and I will be in Griffith Park that day, emceeing. So like, you know, they'll sort of loop me into the festival here and there, just to, you know, live from Griffith Park. But yeah, sadly, we can't get everybody together in person, but next year, and then we'll have both. We'll have a virtual interface and this, you know, wonderful in person. So yeah.
I love it. So when I log online, do I have to wear my mask?
You can, but no, that's, I guess, one of the benefits of virtual is you don't need to don the mask, right? We are going to be, stay tuned. We've been planning again. Just all this has been going on since like January. It's been really hard not to talk about too much because we still weren't sure what was possible given all the programming time needed. But on the product side, April Gilbert, our wonderful operations person, works on the store. We have a P22 limited edition mask we'll be selling. We will obviously, this P22 Wild Wonderland I showed you, we'll obviously be doing t-shirts and things like that. So yeah, fun stuff. I'm really
Well, that event's where I get all my gear every year.
Yep.
It's where I got this cool t-shirt. Got a
Oh,
water
and the
bottle.
biggest thing I forgot. Oh my God. We have a P22 costume this year. You can order. Let's see. And it comes with a tail.
Oh, yes.
My cat.
Yes. Yes. I'm in.
Comes with a collar.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's worth the price of admission. That is
there.
awesome.
Our store will be up. You can actually, October 1st, like you can order some of these things in advance to wear, you know, while you're doing the festival. Yeah, I love this. And I think it can kind of double as like a adult Playboy bunny costume too. So
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a tagged cougar, baby. I love it.
Yep.
That is so funny. Oh my God. So, okay, so we have a question about, I might have missed this at the beginning, but what is Beth currently working on?
Yeah, you know, boy, it's all about cougars these days. Just because this is this is an $85 million public-private partnership. The mountain lions, as we know, are running out of time, even more so. I'm sure, you know, we had the great Summer of Kittens news, which I was joking with Jeff. Thank you for releasing the kittens first to at least get everybody high, because the down news came, of course, last week, which is that, well, I think the headline should have said, National Park Service biologist to public, we told you so, right? So this is just such a great validation of why science works. Jeff and Seth, their research have been saying for years, we're going to start seeing abnormalities or birth defects or whatever you want to call them. And that's what the Florida panther was showing before they literally were going extinct. And what birth defects means, I mean, it's not just that it's unsightly like a kinked tail. It means that the cats are likely going sterile, right? One testy and stuff like that. So we've now reached this low bar we didn't want to hit, which, you know, sort of hastens that extinction timeline. You know, it could do that considerably, right? So we are like, game over could be quicker. So we just, you know, got to keep advancing on this crossing. So that's what I spend really the majority of my time on. And the good news is, even with, you know, some of the challenges we are facing, whether it be COVID or fire, this is advancing. We still need your help, and we have a long way to go as far as hitting our target to pay that construction bill when it comes. On the other hand, right now there is not a delay, and Caltrans is working. We keep paying the bill every month, right? And that's because of people like you, Dana, and others who have just stepped up. But we have to keep that trajectory to keep going. And so a lot of the P22 events are designed to raise awareness and just get the word out more. But it's exciting. You know, when I started working on this in 2012, it was an idea. Nobody even knew what was possible. The Park Service just knew we needed to do something. Caltrans was willing. Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy had put aside the land. Resource Conservation District was taking a look at what to do. But there was no money. It wasn't quite sure. Now look where we, oh my God, like I'm going to design meetings like weekly, or at least talking to like Caltrans, or we have these wonderful wildlife crossing experts of living habitats. And they're talking about sound walls and growing the right mushrooms for the, you know, for the landscape. I mean, it is so exciting to see how this is advancing, and we just need to keep advancing. So, and you know, the state of California, the Wildlife Conservation Board just gave us $5 million towards construction. So the state confidence is behind this, and it, you know, it's exciting to see. If we stay on track with fundraising, we'll be breaking ground next year. And
oh my goodness, that's
we've hit every fundraising target in this campaign since 2012. And I have no doubt we will reach it, but we do need everybody's help. There's no doubt.
What is that text again? What is that text number? If you just want to text your donation to,
we don't use that anymore, but just go to saveLACougars.org. And again, donate to Turanga Ranch. This is your show. I didn't mean to, I guess that's
no. This is,
but, you know, volunteer. We're about to launch. We've been working on it for a while. One of those both a crowd and team fundraising module. We're actually launching that next week. But you know, even the best thing you can do, even if you don't donate, is just tell people, right? The more people are aware, the more, you know, people are aware, and then so anyway, just stay tuned. We have a lot, you know, that's been in the works for the fall, and just stay tuned too. We'll be releasing some new design concepts. Again, one of the most exciting things for me is, you know, we have a talented team. You know, the 5 main partners I named previously. You know, you have some of the like top biologists in the world, Jeff and Seth. You have Caltrans, who, you know, they're the top the biggest transportation agency in the country. You have, you know, Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. They've set aside, you know, more land than you can name. The Resource Conservation District is so good at habitat restoration, but nobody, and then the National Wildlife Federation, we're one of the oldest and largest groups, great core set of partners. But after we, got to 30% design, we're like, yeah, but nobody on this team's ever built a wildlife crossing. You know what I mean? So we brought in, and we did a competitive, this incredible team of experts. You just can't get any more like top expert. Tony Clevenger, who literally like set the gold standard with the Banff crossings. He's the one. Robert Rock is the one who leads the team. He's amazing, living habitats. But it's this multidisciplinary team that works complementary with Caltrans to bring in that wild, because these are not like building a bridge, right? It's not just like putting up a bridge and putting cars over it. That's what Caltrans does well. This is about getting wildlife across the freeway. And that's a very different scenario. I mean, for example, this crossing, 300 to 500,000 cars a day go under it. You know, you gotta not only get them across the road, you have to mitigate the sound and the light of, 300,000 cars a day. So, it's never really been done in an urban environment. So it's been really fun to see this design advance. And again, stay tuned during P22 week. We'll be releasing some pretty cool stuff. So.
And I just put in the chat that for more information on the crossing, there's a really cool documentary called The Cat That Changed America that sort of talks about the crossing and all of it's just mind blowing, all the stuff that goes, all the thought. I mean, mushrooms. The mushrooms.
Yeah. No, exactly. Like it's been really, for most of this, and a lot of people complain that it was taking so long. Are you kidding me? Like, I mean, public projects like this take 30 years. We're doing it. We're going to break ground in less than a decade. And because there is, Caltrans has regulations. It's not just like building a house on private property, right? And yeah, I mean, all the thought that has to go into getting these animals across the road. And yeah, it's a living bridge, right? So, I mean, that is not something I would have even thought of, right? And we're talking about a nursery nearby to propagate some of the plants, what soil load, how, there's wildlife that are going to cross it, but there's wildlife that's going to live on it, the little stuff. So how do you ensure that happens, right? So yeah, it's been also really fascinating learning. It's an interdisciplinary project. It's not just an engineer building a bridge. It's, you need the plant people there. You need the biologists. You need the landscape, you need the engineer, you need and it's been really fun learning about what makes a successful wildlife crossing. So yeah. So that's
And I sure love seeing what the I think they were fifth graders created and brought to the festival. The fact that the teachers had the students designing wildlife crossings blew my mind. Like, what a great way to engage their creativity for such a great cause,
the
right?
kids get it. Oh my God. Like, that's what I love about this. Again, we talked a lot about what P22 has done. Like, these kids, like, they don't just know P22, they know like P38 and, like they are like that this is in their backyard and that they get into, and they get the whole connectivity thing. Like, they, in a way that I think adults sometimes have to struggle with, if it, they get that, that connection is important, and they come up with one guy decided, it was great. One kid did an ocean crossing under the 101 to go from like Malibu to Ventura, and I was like, wow, that's such a great idea. Not that, but yeah, they and the other thing I've been working on, which I'm proud of, which is I did out of my professional capacity but related to it, was this book. This was so much fun to do. This is a pandemic project, right? I mean, I spend usually 70% of my time on the road. It's not that I've actually gotten less busy. In some respects, the crossing's getting to a point where it's actually more work, but my like 100-hour week went to like 60 or 70 hours because I didn't have all the travel involved. And so a friend of mine owns a publishing company. We were always talking about a project, and this was just fun. This is a guided activity journal to sort of inspire you about wildlife, and there's some of my pika stories and stuff. But this was fun too. This was really fun to do, and it's for all ages. So yeah, check it out. It's kind of a fun book. I don't know, Dana, if you had a chance to, it just came out. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it.
I have. I love it. I am excited to use it with kids.
Awesome.
Conversation with a wolf. If you could speak wolf, what would you ask a wolf? What would you want to know about a wolf's life? What would you tell a wolf? I love this. I think this is awesome. And I love, you're reaching all audiences, right? You've got your adults, you've got your kids, and maybe not even kids. Like this
Actually,
is kind of cool, just like for anyone, I think.
It is for all. There is something, it was funny, my publisher, at first I wanted to just write it for adults. There's actually a big, like, adults are turning to guided journals these days for any, like I bought one on guided, like, Zen, right? But what was interesting is originally I had sort of targeted adults, and my publisher's the one who pushed me to sort of like, let's make it all ages. And it's interesting. I think if you're age 10 and above, there's stuff that adults will appreciate. It's not like, stuff at the level of adult that is in here. I think mostly 10 and up can do pretty much everything. There's stuff for little kids too, like if some coloring stuff, but although adults like that too. But as a family, certainly all, helping some of the younger kids with the activities is it. And that's also, I'm glad you said that. One of the things we're really purposeful about is we will have PDF pages of some of these activities available for educators to do for free, and I'll be doing a lot more talks. But yeah, one of my favorite activities, you named one, was about the what animal frightens you, was a fun one. Or what is an animal nobody loves and you have to design a PR campaign for it. That was one of my favorite ones too.
That is awesome. I love that too. All right. Well, we are already going over, but I have one last question from Rebecca that I think could be answered relatively quickly, so we can end on it. Does Beth have a favorite cougar?
Oh God, that's so
I know you weren't ready for that.
Of course, P22, but I guess aside from P22, P64 was a favorite of mine. He was the one, the culvert cat, that he gets it like P22 adaptability. He had figured out how to use that culvert that I wouldn't even, I took 2 steps and it was already claustrophobic. It was pretty atypical, much like P22 is not typical for living in a park, and certainly a culvert is not a sustainable wildlife crossing. But that cat sort of did what he needed to do to, survive on this really arid landscape. He was was a pretty remarkable cat, I think. So yeah, he's probably one of my other favorites. But of course, P22, you know, just tops the list. But again, you know, then I'd sort of shift to, well, P23 was also a pretty cool cat. You know, it's hard to say a favorite. I mean, they've just all done remarkable things. But, he stands out for me just because he was so symbolic of, again, having to overcome these challenges that cats like up near me wouldn't have to. So, and he died, unfortunately. Unfortunately, his death is also to that point, right? He did not perish immediately in the Woolsey fire. That was P74, which was probably just bad luck. Like humans, you can be in the wrong place in the wrong time. But he couldn't get out of the urban interface, was what the Park Service theorized, because of the GPS points, and get out of the fire zone, because he kept hitting, you know, roads, and he died about 2 weeks after with burnt paws. So it was also, he couldn't, in the end, one more urban challenge spelled his doom, you know.
Yeah, I feel the same way about P41. He was my favorite. And, you know, he was the most urban here in our backyard on the east side, spending 6% of his time in people's backyards, beating Mr. P22, but just barely.
Yeah.
And then it was the same thing. They found him after the La Tuna fire. And so that was really, really sad. But I think, you know, the fact that he was so local, you know, helped people connect with him. People were very upset when he was lost.
You know, that was a hard one for me, but my friend Johanna Turner, who's probably going to get mad that I didn't say P41 was my other favorite, but, you know, it was hard. You know, she's the one that discovered him, and, you know, that was hard when he passed as well, which could have been, again, from fire, right? That, you know, he just didn't get enough to eat. But on a positive note, so we don't end, like, kittens. I mean, we got an abundance of kittens, and if, you know, if we can just get this crossing built, if we can just, you know, those guys are going to have a future. And some of those summer of kittens are going to be probably the first to use the crossing. And, you know, just end with what I love, again, in your part of this, Dana, you know, the remarkable attitude in LA towards native wildlife. Again, I work for a national organization, and, you know, I can tell you that that's pretty abnormal, right? I mean, again, most cities are not willing to live with a mountain lion, but just down the line, like the education you do. And so I think it's really something to celebrate, not just that LA is now going to be this, the LA area is the site of this remarkable landmark crossing, but it's also the site of this new movement to coexist with wildlife. I mean, you got the, you know, city of LA looking at a pilot program to look at zoning and building permits around tailoring that to increase connectivity in the neighborhood. I mean, you know, it's just, you go down the line of, you know, of positivity, and not just LA. I mean, you know, California itself has a value system. We're the only state in the country that doesn't hunt mountain lions for sport. And, you know, I got to give Governor Newsom a tour of the, here, we'll end on this, because this to me is one of the most
nice.
A tour of the wildlife crossing last year. His dad is the one who helped with Prop 117. Governor Newsom, you might not know, had a pet Potter the otter when he was a kid. I think that is like one of the funnest facts. But, you know, to me, this is what I love. You know, when we talk about what's special about California, so there's Gavin Newsom tweeting out a photo of him taking a selfie with P22 with the statement, P22 will always have my heart. Okay, can you think of another governor in the country that would tweet out, a mountain lion has my heart? So, you know, to me, that's, you know, that's just what I like to celebrate about California, is from our governor to Mayor Garcetti is a big P22 fan, to Adam Schiff, to, you know, you just go down the line, to the people, right? I mean, to people, our value is coexisting, and hey, thank you, everybody, right?
Exactly, 100%. Well, thank you so much for finding some time tonight to join us. I know how absolutely busy you are. And for those of you out there, I just want to say thank you for joining us. I really appreciate that. If you liked this interview, hit the like button. That will help everybody here. We would love
It's
that.
the Fort Taranga Ranch. They do such incredible education. Go to their website, donate, like, share, whatever you need to do.
Thank you. Yes, yes. Well, we are continuing to do what we can. And then also subscribe, because we're always doing new stuff. We're always trying to make it interesting. And next week at 6 o'clock, we are going to be talking about this awesome book, Urban Carnivores. So we're going to continue our conversation about these urban carnivores. And this book is special to me, not only because it's been autographed by Seth Riley.
Oh, yeah, I think mine is too.
No, but it has been edited by Dr. Stan Garrett, one of my all-time favorite people in the universe, and Seth Riley and Brian Cipher. So
you got everybody. I don't have Stan's autograph. I'm gonna have to.
I know, we got to get Stan's. So Dr. Garrett, this is Beth and I's request. We also need your autograph in our book. So it's been put out in the universe, right?
Yeah, he needs to. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So thank you everyone for joining us. And with that, I am going to say goodbye to YouTube. Bye.
Bye, YouTube.